So we've been spending these sessions looking at how we can come into a more positive relationship with ourselves, how we can develop this quality of metta, this Buddhist term metta, which means unconditional love or unconditional well-wishing. So we're not just feeling okay about ourselves because I don't know, we've had an achievement, or we feel we're wearing the right clothes today, or we feel we said something in work and that went down well and we feel popular. Actually, we can have just as much of an unconditional regard for ourselves if it feels like we've really messed up, or we're really frumpy, or we're completely failing at our relationship, or, so in a way, it doesn't really matter what is arising in our mind or in our lives. It is still possible to have an unconditional, positive well-wishing for ourselves. And of course, we can't do that all at once. This is a training. This is a mind training. So it's like we learn, if I practice this with my mind, and I keep on practicing relating to myself in a different way, in a more positive way, over time, that really dramatically changes who we are, how we relate to ourselves. And as it changes how we relate to ourselves, that also changes how we relate to other people. So it can also really transform our relationships, how we are in the world. But what it does require is persistence over time. So it's like if you came to the first 2 sessions and it hasn't happened by the 3rd session, well, that's probably unsurprising. So it's one of these things where it happens slowly. It's like a gradual shift in our mind habits. But I mean, I must say, I just find it very, very exciting, just this idea that it is possible to change our experience of ourselves and the world so radically. And well, I've been practicing now for since 2006, and I have radically, it's like I'm so different to who I was then, and I'm definitely a lot happier and probably a lot easier to get along with than I was then. Junipalata must have been meditating way longer than that. When did you start, Junipalata?
83 was when I went.
83, there we go. Okay, I think I was in primary school at that point, but I probably didn't start practicing metta in primary school. Okay. So don't worry if this is your first session. Good grief, we've got umpteen late people. Oh well, I'll just have to pick up as we go on. Great, welcome if you're just joining the session. So don't worry if you haven't been to the others. Hopefully this all makes sense anyhow. And if you haven't been to the others, you can always go back and listen to the recordings, which are on the website. Sarah will put up the link for that later. So we've looked at so far meditations where we're just staying with the body and with physical experience, and how that can be an act of love. And actually, if that's what we do, just again and again, bringing this kindly awareness, maybe to the breath, maybe to our heart center, actually our mind will unfold in a positive way. So that's one method we've been exploring. We've also been exploring bringing a kindly voice to our experience, no matter what it is. So if something unpleasant or painful is presenting, we're not judging it, we're not worrying about that, we're just going, oh, when I start speaking to myself in that harsh voice, oh, that's really uncomfortable, I wouldn't want that for my friend. May I be free of that? So it doesn't matter what is presenting, we're just relating to it with kindness. And if something that's pleasant is presenting, we can just enjoy it, and we can rejoice and kind of go, wow, well, that's lovely. I'm really enjoying the feel of my blanket around my legs at the moment. How marvellous. I can really let myself enjoy that. And then last week we unpacked a bit more about this being with the body, just staying with the body without judgment. And we also brought in this element of imagination, and how all of us are beings of imagination, and we can use that faculty of imagining to help integrate and transform different bits of ourselves, the bits we like and the bits we don't like. Now, if you're someone who already has a meditation practice, so you might be doing classic meditations like the mindfulness of breathing or the metta bhavana, a practice to develop metta. You could be doing these meditations we've been learning as sort of standalone practices as they're led on the recordings. But you could also just, if you find something that is helpful to you or an approach that is helpful to you, you can take that away and you can use it within the structure of your existing meditation practices. Okay, so this week, this week we're going to be looking at how unconditional kindness towards ourselves takes us deeper into connection with others. That's it going one way, and taking it the other direction, how if we can bring metta or unconditional well-wishing to others, actually that also helps us be unconditionally loving towards ourselves. It's like a sort of positive feedback loop. Now, I sort of had this question for a while, which is, why is it that in our culture it seems to be that people have so much difficulty with themselves? Because if you talk to, I don't know, Tibetans or somebody like that, actually, they already have a positive relationship with themselves, and they just need to focus on other people. So what is it about our culture that it means that, like, in one shape or form or another, most of us have quite a critical, judgmental relationship with ourselves, although that can show up quite differently according to, what sort of personality type you are. Now, there's probably a lot of ways to answer this, but I'm going to answer it one way. And it's something about our culture being very individualistic. Things are really focused on the individual human being. And there are some positive things about this. You can go in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of different choices. You're not just sort of restricted to a certain thing by being a certain gender or in a certain family or something like that. So it's not like there's not good things about this. But this individualist culture means we think very much in terms of us, and are we successful? Are we achieving? It's all about what the individual person is, rather than each of us in relation to a collective or in relation to a sort of tribe or a group. And just to say, you do get a whole load of other problems if you have that. So it's not like we've got this sort of special extra difficulty. It's more just like we do have the culture we've got, so then we've got to learn how to work within it. So what this individualism means, and this whole sort of like consumer focus on like, well, what can I get? What can I achieve? And then you get the whole social media thing where it's like, you've got to self-present. It's like you're kind of curating your life to present yourself as this kind of like marvelous, shiny person. Well, that is just amazingly stressful. It's amazingly stressful. And because of course we want to be successful and we want to be popular and we want to be, we want to be a worthwhile, the right sort of person. What happens is we end up applying to ourselves unrealistically high standards. We have to be always kind, or always right, or always achieving, or always saying the right thing. And it's immensely stressful. How can we possibly do that? So I've got a very good friend who thinks of her metta practice as the death of Superwoman or the death of Superman, because it's like we're just trying to be something that is not, it's not within reality. It's fine if you're in a superhero movie, but actually, like, my life doesn't look like a superhero movie. Sometimes I wish it did, but it doesn't. And this kind of desire to be Superman or Superwoman, it shows up as worrying about our inadequacies, or criticizing ourselves, or compulsively needing to achieve, or really worrying about what other people think about us, or worrying about, are we meeting our own high standards? That was a really big one for me. It was more like I had these standards that were up here. And there are these sort of narratives or stories that just run on endlessly in our heads around this kind of like this worry, or this kind of putting ourselves down, or comparing, or whatever it might be. And the one thing that all this has in common is that there is a great big me in the center. It's like we're all kind of trying to do this marvelous me project where we keep on trying to make ourselves these fantastic people. And we are just trying to do something that ain't ever going to happen. It's like, actually, we're human beings. We have emotions that are common to all human beings. Sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we're acting from really good motives. Sometimes we're really messing up and we show the worst in ourselves. And that's just what it's like. That is just what it's like. And it's not like it's just like that for us. It's just like that for all of us. All of us are just, we've got whatever mess we've got going on, whatever emotionality, whatever insecurities, and whatever strengths. And then we're doing our best in the world. And so's our partner, so are our kids, so are the people living next door to us, so's the person at work that really, really gets up our nose. So's the woman that serves us when we go to the co-op. It's like we're all working with basically the same stuff. It shows up in different ways in different people's personalities, or life experiences that has formed them. But every human being just wants to feel okay about themselves. Every human being wants to feel safe. Every human being wants to feel loved. Every human being wants to know that people they care about will also be safe and feel loved. It's just, there's a whole load of stuff that is completely universal. Joe Cox, that MP who a few years ago got, I think it was, I can't remember if she was shot or stabbed, and she'd really been trying to bring people in her community together, and she'd made this really gorgeous speech where she'd said, there's more that unites us than divides us. And it was, it was just so true. There's more that unites us than divides us. Now, when we feel connected, and when we feel that like we've got a sense of solidarity, and a sense of, a sense of affinity, and a sense of connectedness with other humans, and in fact, it doesn't have to stop at humans. It can be animals and plants and the natural world and the ecosystem. Actually, like everything that is alive just wants to be well and able to thrive. And it's no different In a way, if you're a plant, you want the same thing. Okay, your consciousness level is a bit different. But, essentially, we share that basic desire to be okay and to be safe and to thrive with everything that lives. Now, when we're in touch with that sense of connectedness, generally we are happier. Our experience is more expansive. Generally, when we're in touch with that, we're not getting into little tight knots of kind of concern about, did we say the wrong thing in that work meeting, or are we better than that other person at work, or are they going to get promoted over us, or I don't know, did we really offend our friend when we said X, whatever it might be. So when we get very locked into this kind of high expectations, superhero mentality, it's very tight and narrow, and it's very me focused. And when we open into realizing, oh, everyone worries about this sort of stuff, everyone has levels of insecurity. Actually, this is just part of what everyone has to work with. We open up, we loosen off. It just stops mattering so much. Maybe we did say the wrong thing in the work meeting. So what? Everyone says the wrong thing sometimes. We can just trust that actually we're part of a network of life. We're part of a network of consciousness. And actually, it just doesn't matter so much whether we're wearing the right thing or saying the right thing or doing the right thing. So what? So what? And it can just be immensely liberating just to be able. It's almost like we can just laugh at ourselves a bit and kind of go, oh, there I am trying to kind of be a superhero again. Oh well, and that's what people do, and that's what people do. So, from a Buddhist point of view, this kind of being locked into trying to create a kind of super me or a marvelous me, it's exactly the same whether we're comparing ourselves to others and finding ourselves deficient, and we're kind of putting ourselves down and going, oh, I'm really rubbish at this or that, or whether we're comparing and we're finding ourselves better. Like, well, I always clean up the cups at work, or I always finish my reports, or well, I wouldn't let my children do that. So whether or not we're comparing and finding ourselves better than, or whether we're comparing and finding ourselves worse than, actually it's part of the same me project, where we're focusing on trying to create a self that is the sort of self that we want. And actually, happiness and ease doesn't lie in that direction. It lies in just opening that up and just realizing that there's just so much we have in common. That is the direction that leads to freedom. So what we're going to do is a meditation practice. You will be astonished to hear. Now, the practice we're doing, we're going to do it in 5 stages, and of course I'll lead it through, so don't feel like you've got to memorize all this. Now, if you are familiar with the metta meditation called the metta bhavana, which means becoming or cultivating well-wishing, the stages are going to be the same as that, so you can tune into that. And the 5 stages are: ourselves, we'll be spending longer on this stage. Then a friend, just someone we have a simple, friendly relationship with. So the first person that comes into your mind, that will do just fine. Someone we don't know well. So someone we see fairly regularly, so we can bring them to mind, but we don't know much about them. It might be a work colleague or someone we see in a shop or the postie or something like that. And then someone we're currently having a bit of difficulty with. Now pick someone that's just irritating us slightly at the moment. Don't pick somebody who, did some terrible thing to your family and blighted your life. You can work up to them, but don't pick them right now. And the fifth stage is bringing all 4 people, including yourself, together. So pick your people now, so as you're not kind of, you can spend the whole meditation thinking, well, will it be them or them? So the first people that come to mind will be just fine. Now, the way we're going to do this, whoops, let me just shuffle my pieces of paper, get the right one in place. There we go. We're going to work in this meditation practice drawing from the Tonglen tradition. Now, Tonglen means giving and receiving. It's from the Tibetan tradition, and I'm going to be leading a particular version of it, and there are many different versions, so if you've come across another, well, just go with this one for the moment. And probably the key point of it is it's like we're using the breath. So this practice brings together the body-based approaches we've been looking at and the imagination. So we're definitely using the breathing. We're just in touch with the sensations of breathing. And so talking through it as though it's the first stage for ourselves. We're breathing in, and we're just breathing in our own experience, like whatever's happening, we're breathing that experience in. And then we're breathing out ease or light or kindness or relaxation or whatever quality we feel is going to be the antidote to the difficult state that we're breathing in. And we can do this really physically, just like kind of, feeling how is that in the body? Just breathing in, well, what is happening now? And then we're breathing out whatever will help or ease or bring kindness. And so we can do that just very body-based, just very physically. And it might be you're the sort of person where that's what you prefer. And so if that's what you want to stick with, that is just fine. If you want to use your imagination as well, and I will lead it through like this, we'll bring to mind a warm golden light coming in through the crown of our head. And it's like this golden light, it's representing all the forces of kindness in the world. All those people who choose kind actions, all the care that strangers give each other, all the care that parents give children. So we're just imagining receiving from this, these forces of kindness in the world in the form of light like sunshine. It comes in through the crown of our head, comes down to our heart. And so we breathe in whatever upsetting or difficult or self-critical experience we're having. And then we breathe out this golden transforming light. Is this making sense so far? Okay. Does anyone want to ask a question? Okay, good.